After Vin fainted, he knew nothing more. The pursuers behind him also jumped into the hole, unaware of Vin's presence below. The forest returned to its original tranquility as the group departed. Returning to Nam, after separating from Vin, he plunged headlong through the dense trees. Despite running with all his might, Nam could feel the rushing sound behind him getting closer. The 2 pieces of Agarwood on his shoulders were now a hindrance. He quickly removed his backpack and threw it behind him, running as fast as he could to escape. Suddenly, something seemed to hold his feet back. In the midst of his rapid run, Nam crashed into a large tree in front of him. He only had time to see 3 or 4 ethnic people with terrifying black and white face paint, armed with long spears. Some carried bows and arrows. Behind them were 2 large dogs with bloodshot eyes. One of them kicked him hard in the chest, a devastating blow that caused Nam to roll over and over in pain. Then he lost consciousness. The 4 people tied Nam's hands and feet, inserting thick sticks through them as if carrying a pig. The next morning, Nam woke up to find himself beside his 2 companions. The others were still unconscious, their faces covered in dried blood. Kenny had a bleeding wound on his shoulder that had turned into dark clots. Nam couldn't move. His hands and feet were tightly bound. His body was curled up like a pig in a cage, waiting to be slaughtered. Nam tried to speak, but his throat was dry and he couldn't make a sound. He whispered, "Tom, can you wake up, Tom? Can you wake up, guys?" After being called by Nam, the 2 others woke up. They were also tied up like Nam. Tom asked Nam, "What happened? Did we get kidnapped by Savagias?" Nam shook his head and whispered, "Not Savadus. We've probably invaded the territory of a deep forest village. The people here are warlike and cold-blooded. Tony died on the spot. Teresa and Vin are missing. They probably escaped." As they were talking, a group of people from the Brop village arrived. Ken, the leader who often interacted with the outside world, knew some Kin mountain language. Seeing the 3 people in the wooden cage awake, he asked, "You dare to invade our territory and steal our sacred object? You deserve to die. However, to atone for your sins, your blood will be used to nourish our sacred object." The 3 people in the wooden cage turned pale. Nam tried to speak loudly. "We are just people looking for Agarwood. We didn't invade your territory or intend to harm this place. Please give us a chance to live. We promise never to set foot in this forest again." Ken responded with a harsh tone, "I've promised the gods. Your blood will nourish our sacred object. Ha ha ha. Take them to be cleansed and sacrificed to the gods." The 3 were dragged out of the wooden cage and taken to a stream near the village. They had prepared a pot of water with many leaves inside, emitting a pleasant and calming aroma. Tom shouted, "Oh, I don't want to be boiled. Please, let me go. I'll do anything you want, please." No one answered him. The 3 were led into the stream, their clothes cut off, and 4 people washed each of them with the water from the pot. When they smelled the water, they stopped resisting and felt a sense of comfort. After bathing for a while, they regained consciousness. Their clothes had been replaced with the local people's clothing, but the 3 of them wore identical outfits. Ken said loudly, "The purification of the sacrificial offerings is complete. Take the sacrificial offerings to the dwelling place of the sacred object." the three were dragged away again. They realized they were being taken to be sacrificed. Tom and Kenny struggled to escape, but were no match for the four people. They were quickly taken out of the village and into a dense forest path with no sunlight. After walking for about 15 minutes, they emerged from the dense forest into an open area surrounded by a circle of stones, resembling an ancient sacrificial altar. To their surprise, in the center of the circle was a huge Agarwood tree, so large that it couldn't be fully embraced by one person. The fragrance was intoxicating. They also saw two people hanging from the tree like crucifixes, their necks twisted to one side, indicating death. Nam and the others recognized them as Tony and Teresa. After bringing the three people there, Ken ordered everyone to bury 3 wooden stakes. When they were finished, they brought the 3 people and tied their hands and feet to the upright stakes. As night fell, a large fire was lit, illuminating the entire area. Ken approached, holding a shining knife and a large basin. He went to the base of the Agarwood tree, wrapped his arms around it, and muttered in the local language something like, "The time for sacrifice has come. Oh, our God, those who disturbed your peace have been captured. Today, we bring them before you. They have been purified. Please accept them." After bowing 3 times, Ken suddenly raised his head. The tree above shook violently, as if an invisible force was causing it. Ken and the villagers knelt down and shouted, "The God has appeared! The God has appeared! The God has appeared!" Ken then went to Kenny, whose mouth was covered with leaves. Ken looked at him and said, "You should be happy to be a sacrifice for our sacred object." Kenny made unintelligible sounds and shook his head, as if begging. But Ken's eyes were cold and ruthless. He placed the knife on Kenny's neck and shouted, "Oh God, receive our offering." With a strong pull, he cut Kenny's throat, and a stream of hot, fresh blood spurted out. Someone held a basin to catch the blood. Kenny choked in his throat, his hands and feet convulsing. But he couldn't break free from the tight bindings. A stream of yellow urine flowed out, accompanied by a foul odor. After a while, Kenny's body twitched a few times and then went limp, his head hanging to one side. The basin of blood was poured around the base of the Agarwood tree, and strangely, the blood seemed to be absorbed without a drop falling to the ground. Only a slight red color appeared around the base. After pouring the second basin of blood, the Agarwood tree shook its leaves violently again. Ken and the villagers knelt down and bowed. Then Ken shouted, "The God is satisfied. Today's sacrifice is over. Bring the sacrificial offerings back to Abu." Ken walked into the forest, and a tiger was lying beside a large tree, blending in with the darkness. Seeing Ken, the tiger growled in dissatisfaction. Ken patted its head and said, "Be good, be good. Your food is out there. Wait a moment and you'll have something to eat." "Wear this." Ken took out a large tiger tooth with strange carvings from his bag, a kind of amulet, and put it on the tiger's neck with a rope made of tree bark. After putting the rope on the tiger's neck, Ken left, followed by the villagers who disappeared into the night. Nam was the only survivor. He breathed a sigh of relief, but then smelled a foul and fishy odor coming from the forest. Under the reflection of the fire, he saw a pair of eyes approaching from the darkness. As he realized what it was, he shouted, Please let me go. Please give me a chance to live. Someone, save me. Save me. The creature emerging from the darkness was the tiger Abu. It walked slowly, its eyes glowing and its mouth open, revealing sharp teeth and a foul-smelling drool blown back by the wind towards Nam Nam. Used all his remaining strength to struggle and shake the stake, hoping it would fall, but to no avail. The tiger approached him, sniffed around him, and its eyes seemed to be enjoying themselves. Suddenly, it roared loudly, "Ayuom, Ayuom." The tiger's roar echoed through the silent night, waking up the surrounding creatures. Birds flew into the sky with loud cries, and ground animals fled from their shelters. Nam's ears were ringing from the roar, and he tried to shout,